Good morning, everyone. I'm Shruti, and today we have Suma Ravindra to talk about difficult conversations we've all had in our lives. Suma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shruti. Hello, everybody. My name is Suma Ravindra. I work as engineering manager at Herman Miller Furniture India Private Limited. So I have been in the mechanical industry for the last 22 years. This is my 22nd year. So it's been quite a roller coaster ride so far, and I am looking forward for more adventurous rides as well. On a personal note, of course, I'm married and I have two daughters, 19 and 12. So you can imagine the kind of conversations I would have had in the last probably 20 plus years. So I still consider conversation as just a conversation. So we'll talk more about all of that. I'll try to be very brief, and then probably I have a small presentation. I would like to share that, and then after we finish the presentation, it may take around 15-20 minutes, and after that I will probably take some of the questions, and I'll try to answer based on my experience and to the best of my ability. Okay, you're having a conversation, so have some things handy. Write it down if you want, and focus on those points which you really want to solve. And then be prepared for a two-way dialogue. So you might have a lot of things in your mind which you want to express, but we also have to understand that the other person also has quite a lot of things to say. And the assumption is that you have a problem. The other person may not have. That's an assumption we are making. The other person's viewpoint, understanding that is absolutely important. And so you be prepared for a two-way dialogue to understand the other person's viewpoint. And then the biggest thing is we always think that the problem lies somewhere else. So we don't really challenge our own assumptions and beliefs. So you have arrived at a problem thinking that a lot of people have influenced certain decisions in your life, and you are probably not okay with those, and you want to have a conversation to solve that problem. But we also have to think whether our own assumptions or beliefs are valid. You challenge it. I mean, you may be at the end of the day, you may still be your assumptions may still be right, but we have to challenge our assumptions and beliefs. What worked probably 3 or 4 years back may not be the same thing now. So just don't hold on to those assumptions and beliefs. So challenge those. So those are all part of the preparations. And then the most important aspect of a conversation is taking control of emotions. Because emotions is the one which actually makes it difficult, because there are people involved, and emotions are the ones which makes us human. But at the same time, we need to take control. We shouldn't allow the emotions to overpower our common sense. So I think that is quite hard. So try to take control of emotions. And the last one I just try to put here is in engineering terms, we solve lots of engineering problems by a lot of techniques and some methodologies. So I have tried to adopt that particular methodology to a conversation. So all of these things, whatever I list down, may not be done in such a methodical way. It's just that I'm trying to relate how we solve an engineering problem into a basic conversation, talking between two people. I'm trying to adopt. So it may not happen like, okay, it's not that, okay, you sit down and then plan everything and then most of the things come instantly. But I think there are certain things which you have to keep at the back of your mind. So the problem solving methodology in solving most of the engineering problems are like 4-step process we definitely follow, which is like define the problem, identify various options for solution, evaluate the solution, and then implement the solution. It's a very basic 4-step method we use. So I'm trying to adopt the same thing to a conversation. So define the problem. I think this is where you need to prepare. So it's called, I'm correlating that to the preparation. So what is bothering you? So what's the real problem? What are the signs that there's a problem at all? Is it just a thought, or do you think that it is a problem and you are sure that the status quo doesn't help and you need to really resolve? So you are absolutely clear about that problem. So that's the preparation stage. And next, you are arriving at the solutions. Don't please go with a preconceived idea already and then go with an idea of convincing the other person. So that probably will not help in that conversation because you are completely ignoring the other person's viewpoint. So you have to discuss. So you might have a few solutions, but you can always ask whether the other person might have a better idea. I mean, we are not perfect, so other person might have other solutions as well. So the next two steps, identifying solutions and evaluating solutions, is a conversation. Definitely it's going to be a conversation because you should be able to accommodate others solution as well. If that doesn't work for you, that's the third point which we are doing. We are evaluating the options. It is not the other person is dictating something. It is just that we are evaluating. So we are talking, we are discussing. Okay, so is the solution for this problem causing more problems? If that is the case, then you have to solve multiple problems. So that's why probably this solution may not be good enough. So what's the best option to solve the problem? What's the easiest option? Or how should you prioritize? So these are some of the questions. I mean, your situation, you're the best judge. Others, you might ask others' opinion, but what works for me might not work for you. So it has to be evaluation done by you and the other person in the conversation. So that's the conversation part. And sometimes there may not be a perfect solution. So you will have to be prepared to find a middle ground and reach an amicable solution, which is probably a win-win kind of a solution, wherein, okay, you are taking probably baby steps. It is not a very big decision which you are going to take. So probably break it down to a smaller solution and implement, and then see how it goes, and then probably take the big step. So that's how I would identify and evaluate the options, having a conversation with the other stakeholder. And then finally, you just implement. So it's not that, okay, you have taken a decision and then that's the end of the whole thing. I mean, that's the beginning, I would say. So when we are implementing the solution, we have to ask the question whether did it really solve the problem, or is there another option we need to try? I mean, that's what we do in most of our engineering problems, because once you arrive at a solution, we may think that it will solve the problem, but we have to always look out for, is it causing more problems or is it causing something else? So then that means that we have to try again. So it is just a problem solving methodology, more of common sense approach, I would say, and applying all of this into a basic conversation. I know it's not so easy because it's just talking, and sometimes our brain is like, it's so fast, it acts so fast and reacts so fast that that it becomes difficult to go through each and every step. But whenever the conversation is beginning to be difficult, I think what generally I do is I take a break. I don't continue with the argument. Of course, I have messed up few times before, but I think it's what has worked for me is take a break, maybe postpone that discussion, and then end that. Because if you are not in the right frame of mind, or if you know that it is not going to end in the right note, then probably you can postpone, take a break. Maybe we can discuss. You can abruptly say, actually, that I really want to have a meaningful conversation. So probably we can do that maybe in the evening or maybe tomorrow. So let's think about this and then come back. So maybe that's the best way to handle. There could be other ways, but what I generally do is I just take a break. I mean, that because you're not in the right frame of mind to have a conversation. So I've had multiple conversations with my husband, my colleagues, my team members, my boss, my daughters, teenage daughters, and I mean it's quite a task when you're having a conversation. And people who know you probably will be easy on you, But people who don't know you might take your whatever you're talking in a totally different way. But that's okay. You don't really have to explain yourself to everybody and justify. So you really have to spend your time, energy on people whom you really want to work with. So that's what I generally do. So I don't get into conversation with everybody, whoever comes, because I mean, they're all being judged, and you don't really have to justify your case. So this is just a problem solving methodology. How can you adopt to a conversation? And this is my last slide, where I have just concluded with lots of tips, which has helped me in my all my last 20 years of conversations. Um, so first thing is, I mean, difficult conversation is for me just another conversation. It's just a conversation, and we make it difficult. And we, when I say, it's both me and the other person on across the table. So both of us actually make the conversation difficult. So treat that conversation as just another conversation. The language what we use should be very simple, clear, direct, and neutral. So it shouldn't be a biased kind of a language. So use the language which is very simple, clear, direct, and neutral. Do not emote. I mean, it's quite hard to follow this, but I think it can come with practice, because you have seen that emotions might have ruined your previous conversations. So probably we have to learn from that. So as far as possible, do not emote and do not play the victim. And then acknowledge your counterpart's perspective. Take time to listen and then comprehend and speak. Don't react. I mean, reacting will always not work. So sometimes it works, but most of the times it doesn't. So please take time to listen and then comprehend what the other person is saying, and then speak. Try to achieve a win-win situation, not win-lose. Um, I mean, one of the way I look at it is like winning an argument with a failed relationship. There's no good at all, especially if that relationship is important to you. I mean, I put that last clause that if that relationship is important to you, then we probably have to arrive at a win-win situation, because even if you have won that whole conversation or the argument, the other person has lost, and that doesn't make you feel good. If that is a situation, then probably we'll have to question whether we have really won that argument. So we have to try to achieve at a balance. Not everyone is perfect, including you, in the sense, including me, I would say. So we just have to be a little easy on others. And the next important point I want to really make is never implement other solutions to your problems. Even though the problem may look very, very similar, the solution could be totally different. So your situation is unique. So what worked for me may not work for you. So your situation is unique, and it has to be treated differently. So because we are talking about two people here, or more people, and not everybody will understand what your situation is. So you are the best judge. Analyze your situation and then solve. And then the last point which I want to make for this conversation, the entire webinar, focus on the problem and stick to the plan of arriving at a solution. If you deviate from that problem, then the conversation is going to take you somewhere where you don't want to be. So please focus on the problem and stick to the plan of arriving at a solution. So these are some of my concluding tips, which I have probably learned over a period of time. I mean, I'll be very honest. I have messed up quite a lot of conversations earlier, but I felt those are right. But did I really feel good about everything after the conversation? Probably not. So probably I'm learning. I'm still learning. I still have a lot of conversations to have, and I'm hoping that I don't repeat some of the mistakes which I did earlier, and I'm just sharing whatever I have learned. So I am happy to take some questions and any of your viewpoints, and if I can help in some way, I would do that. Of course, in just I don't know you all well enough to give a solution, but probably I can just help in probably what is the best thing you can do in that situation. So happy to take questions.
Thank you, Suma. Thank you so much. Suma, I have a few questions of my own that I'd like to ask you.
Yeah, sure.
When you wanted to restart your career, I know you took a career break when you had your children. When you wanted to restart your career, did you have to go through a difficult conversation, either at home or with your, husband or your children or, extended family?
Fortunately, no, I would say. But I know maybe I had a good support system. But when I had my first daughter, I was absolutely clear that I want to take a break. That was my first child, and I was quite young, so maybe around 25-year-old. I was absolutely clear that I want to take a break for 1 year. And I think if you speak with conviction, things becomes easier. If you are actually talking in a very dilly-dallying on a particular thing, probably you are giving some scope for other person to change your decision. So when I spoke to my husband, I mean, both of us were earning that time, and then we had some plans, and of course, it was a planned baby. So when that happened, I was probably from the fifth month, I was like telling that I will take a break, no matter what. I want to be with the baby, so for 1 year, and so I just took that. So I didn't really have to negotiate with anybody, and my probably super supportive husband. So he knew what I was telling, because we are doing it for our own babies, not for somebody else. So he understood what I really meant. And so I didn't really have that kind of difficulty in deciding that. And but during that 1 year break, I was offered to work for my first company where I was working. They asked me if I could work from home, and I was happy to do that. So I did that for a few months, and then I said after a year, I just said that I really can't sit at home and I really want to start. And yeah, I applied and I got a job, and it was easy enough. I probably uh, it's quite a long time that probably I don't remember reaching small difficulties which I might have faced, because I did have my mother-in-law who is no more. But so we wanted her to take care of the baby when I go after a year. And that conversation, probably, if I have to recollect, it was quite smooth. And she was a bit hesitant. I mean, she was quite old, so she wasn't sure whether she'll be capable enough of handling the baby. But I think we had a couple of conversations. I think I still probably don't remember the whole conversation, but it was, I think, over a period of time. It's not just one day I just go to her and say that I want to go to work tomorrow, and then you take care of the baby. It was never that thing. So it was like over a period of month we started talking about this, and will she be comfortable taking care of my baby. And she had few concerns, some questions, and we tried to answer all of that, and then make sure that she was comfortable at home taking care. And then I think it was okay. So maybe the learning for me, which I can share with all of you, is make the other person comfortable. I think because, and it happened over it happened over a period of time. It was not just that I just decide, and then it's not just uh, I decide and you do this. It was never that way. So probably that helped. And then my when I had, after 6 years, I had my second daughter. And I just took the 5 months, or that time it was 3 months maternity break, but I took additional few months. And I still remember the conversation I had with my boss when I decided to take a 6 months break. I was working on a very, very important project, and I decided that I'm going to take a break for at least 6 months. And before that, no matter what, I'm not coming to office. And the policy that time was just 3 months. And I told my boss, I was just talking, and I just told him that, listen, I'm not, don't even call me. I am not coming until my baby is 6 months old. So I just told it with lot of, then he said, no, wait, what is it? I said, see, I will make sure that my project transition, whatever I'm working on, I will make sure that it is transferred to somebody. So the work is not being affected. So I will make sure personally that that work or project, which is the critical project, I started the transitioning probably when I was probably fifth month. I was in my fifth month of my pregnancy. I asked him to identify a person who will be taking over my responsibility. And I used to joke around and say that I used to put stickers on all my that time it was not laptop, it was all desktop. So I put my all pink stickers on all of those, saying that, and I remember saying that I'm going to come back. So please, I mean, I, I I was very clear that you don't really have to respond to everything what people say. It is probably going to drain your energy out. So I don't think that is doable, or I don't think we should even respond to certain things. But I think the people who really matter, you really have to converse. You really have to talk. So the after my maternity break, the 5 month maternity break, when I came back, because it was my second child, I had a good support system at home, and I knew how exactly I need to plan it out. A lot of things were like sort of sorting out things at home, decluttering a lot of things, and making the whole life very simple. I think I approached with a very simplistic method. So yeah, so that was my, so fortunately I didn't really take a very long break, but I think I make sure that the people who are there with me are with me. I mean, in the whole journey. It's not just I'm not doing anything in isolation. So they are very much part of my decision, and they were with me. And I have had a lot of conversation to make sure that they are comfortable, so that I'm not putting all my problems on somebody else and doing. So maybe that worked.
Thanks, Suma. Thank you so much. Everybody who's here, if you have a question, you can post it on our chat group as well. And Suma will be very happy to answer it. Suma, I want to know, do you handle difficult conversations at home differently than you do at work? How differently? Is it only your demeanor and the way you frame the question? Could you give us some insight into it, please?
Yep. I think it's very similar, I would say. Of course, at home, probably a little bit more emotions will play. But I try to keep those emotions at control. I try to treat every conversation the same. It could be home, because even in office, I mean, I spend probably one third of my life in the office. So the people there also matter to me, because that's how I feel later, how I've had those conversations. So it could be with my manager, it could be with my boss or my colleagues, or with my team members. So I have a team of 20 people who report to me. They have all sorts of problems. So they always have a conversation with me. And I don't want to be in a spot where the conversation is ending with a situation where I really need to act more. I mean, it will drain my energy more. So I try to keep the emotions in control and then have a conversation. So I try to listen, and that has come by a lot of practice, I think, because I am not a good listener. I mean, I was not a good listener, but I had, that is probably the reason why I'm stressing more on listen, because that can mess up. Because if you're doing it in a one way kind of a dialogue, it will not help. So you need to listen, and we need to comprehend the whole conversation. What is that we are doing? And if you are very clear about that, and you can always challenge the other person to challenge you back, because that is what I do. Even when I have a conversation with my daughter, she's 19 years now. She's probably an adult. I mean, for me, she's still a kid, but she's an adult actually. So she has her own mind. So when I say something, she has another viewpoint, and I need to listen to it before I even say, no, you're supposed to do this. So, so that conversation, I try to keep it as two adult conversation. If it is mother-daughter conversation, it's going to ruin. Because I keep joking that probably my emotions are like my EQ is probably not so great. So I will be the first person to mess up. So before only, so since my daughter know me, I also tell her that see, this is going to be a conversation. So I have certain things, and if you can convince me, if there is any other way, then probably I can listen. I mean, and I'm open for listening. If she has a better solution, or if she has probably considered all the other points, then probably I mean, if the ego shouldn't come in between, especially with the loud ones. I don't think ego should play because it's going to ruin more. So with probably daughters, so I try to use the same technique. So I just have a conversation. And the other thing which I do is probably the assertive way of talking. So when I speak, probably over a period of time, what I have learned is if you're absolutely clear about what you're going to say, it actually builds your confidence. I mean, you are prepared, you know what you're talking, and you speak with that conviction and with that assertiveness that the other person probably is forced to think from your point of view. So I think I do that quite a lot, and it has helped me, I think, to a large extent, both at home and at work.
Yes, thanks, Suma. Suma,
Yep.
when if I have to have a difficult conversation, I usually prepare myself, you know,
Yep.
and I either make notes, or I love doing what I used to do in business school, which is, I do the SWOT analysis,
Okay.
strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because that sort of clears the issue
Yep.
from all the emotional baggage that it comes with.
Yep.
Is there a certain way that, is there a method that you prepare to when you have a difficult conversation?
Yeah, I think the other probably I don't do it very often. More of I mean the problem solving method is one of the things which I try to adopt. And so problem solving method actually helps me focus on the problem, or what is the main subject, or what's the main issue we are discussing. I think that's what I strongly feel, because if I deviate from that, then it's going to mess up the whole conversation. So for me, the problem solving method. And the other thing also is like most of these like task based things which comes up and you don't know what to do when, kind of thing. I think during that time what I do is that, if you know, there's a tool called 4 box, where you sort out all your life happenings into categorize into these 4 boxes, which is urgent, important, urgent, not important, important but not urgent. So all of that. So based on the urgency of that work and the importance of that, you plan it out. And some of them probably you need to have a conversation now. Some of them probably you don't have to, because there are too many things happening in your life. It becomes very, very difficult. You can't do everything uh, together. So probably boxing it out and decluttering your whole mind, that will help you to focus on certain things which is absolutely important to you, and it has to be acted right away. So I think those are the things which we have to focus on. So categorizing into 4 quadrants based on the urgency and the importance of a particular problem will help sort out quite a lot of things, I think.
Thank you for your insight, Suma.
Yeah.
Suma, when we're in the midst of a difficult conversation and something goes wrong, like the person you're talking to has a bruised ego, how do you handle it, especially at work and actually more importantly at home? How do you
Yeah.
handle it at that? Do you drop the topic, or do you try to work around it? How do you handle it, Suma?
Yeah, the way I handle is I end the conversation. I really don't want to continue that conversation, and I really reach out and I end with a good note, because if you end with a bad note, it's going to create, and a lot of things happen in your mind. Even though you're not talking, in the silence there's a lot of talking actually happening. So the way I do is I just end that conversation. If it is my husband, I say, Ravi, probably we need to take a break. Let's talk about this tomorrow. So I don't think we need to arrive at a solution now. So let's talk tomorrow maybe, or let's postpone. So let's not ruin the whole conversation. So it's going to become difficult. So we know that, and there are many conversations with my husband which we do, which I say that, and we end with a statement saying that we agree to disagree. That's a very, very powerful statement, because husband and wife are not Siamese twins, where everything we have to align. We don't have to, because each of us are two different human beings, and we think differently. There's a lot of diverse things which has happened between, I mean, in me and him. So it is impossible to think alike. So when there is a situation where when we reach a point where we don't agree on certain things, we just say we agree to disagree. We respect each other, so we respect each other's takes and the viewpoints. And if at all we need to really take a stand on one of them will work, it is either my way or his way kind of thing. We tend to postpone it later. We can talk later, because if you're not in the right frame of mind, it is going to be sort of difficult. So probably the best way is to postpone that to an evening or maybe next day. So at home it's easier because we know that you've had lots of good moments with him. So it's not that he's a bad person or you are a bad person. It's not that. So you know each other very well, so you are probably okay to accommodate each other's needs as well, because you love and respect each other, so you give a thought. But I think at office, when egos are hurt, it is going to be difficult. So what I do is I generally ask for another meeting, maybe later on. I don't keep it that way. So I would ask that person. I like to solve myself. I don't reach out to their boss and my boss and ask, make the bosses fight. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. I would like to solve my own problems. So if I have a problem with my colleague and the conversation has ended in a situation where one of our egos are hurt, I try to make it a point that I talk to that person the next day, because I don't like that situation where we can't even say hello to each other. I mean, that's not a good thing to be. I always ask for a conversation and can we please have, because sometimes you would have reacted to a situation, and if you are keeping the business in mind, all of us are paid to do a job, and if you're actually whatever your action is actually solving the business problem, I think we all, both of us, have to agree on certain things. You can't say that this is the way I work and that's how it is going to be. So since people, I mean, the whole of my 21, 22 years of my career in my industries, the whatever companies I worked, those were all about communication. So a lot of stress we give on the way we communicate. It's not always the technical aspect of it. The way you behave, the way you communicate, and how easy it is to work with that person, that makes a big difference. So yeah, so I don't tend to put off a conversation. So I try to have a conversation. If the other person is not initiating, I would go and have that conversation.
Okay, thanks, Suma.
Yep.
Um, what what if you're in the midst of a conversation and it goes downhill? And usually at home, we can kind of take a step back and say, okay, let's, reconvene. But at work and with colleagues, how do you handle it when you're in the midst of it and it's just completely going downhill?
Yeah, I think that's where I think one of us, and most of the time it's me, I summarize. I again focus on the problem. Okay, let's not get into the way I would do is, okay, here, I think the conversation, somebody has to say that. Otherwise, it is going to go downhill and then, I mean, it's going to hit the bottom. So somebody has to take a stand in abruptly stopping that conversation and say that it's not going in the right way. Let's talk again. So let's start from the beginning. Okay, what are we trying to solve here? What's the problem? And how are we seeing that problem? Because I might have been seeing that problem itself in a totally different way, and the other person may have another viewpoint which I'm missing completely. So if you start again, all of the things, start again, have some patience, start the whole conversation again, and then this time with more focus on the problem. What is the problem? Forget about the egos and the things which are happening in the surroundings. So it's basically we are trying to understand what is that we are trying to discuss and arrive at a resolution. So I think you have to stop the conversation, otherwise it's going to be tutu meme kind of thing, and you'll have to spend more energy actually to solve that particular problem.
Okay, thank you. Suma, we have a lot of restarters who are also listening to you right now. And I think for a woman trying to restart her career, she has the most number of difficult conversations. So since we have a lot of restarters, listening to you this morning. And like I said, our restarters have the most number of difficult conversations. Either it's, and mostly it has to be at home with their spouse or with their in-laws or with their child. And I think the most painful and the most difficult is with our children. Um,
Yep.
what would you advise, from your experience of seeing so many women get back to work, and you yourself have taken a break, and you are a mother of two children, so you, at some point, though, you had full support of your husband, I'm sure there must have been times when it was tough with the children and they wanted more of you when you were at work. If you could just share maybe, an incident with us, and also tell us how you maneuver, uh, talking to children.
So I think with children, of course, it's going to be difficult. But the way I have handled it is probably slightly different. I first thing is I don't really go through the entire guilt trip. I don't do that purposely. I don't do it because I'm not going to do a good job if I go through that. So I try to add a lot of humor and become childlike when I'm talking with my child. So one of the example was like when my daughter, the first daughter, when she was 3 years, um, me and my and I had to travel to US for 2 months training, and she was just 3 year old that time, and I was working that time, and I had to go for this training. And the way, as soon as my trip was confirmed, still there was almost a 1 month to go. And I did tell my husband, we have a lot of conversations, so I did tell my husband that it's going to be difficult. I mean, I don't know how you guys are going to manage, because I was the one who does everything at home, and I did have a lot of help. But I was the manager, I would say, at home. And I was like discussing with my husband, like, how are you going to, how is it going to work with us? And so we actually deliberately did more of a playful mode, that he started talking to her, saying that mom is gone for 2 months, and we can have a lot of fun. We can do this, that, because there were quite a lot of rules in my house where I was the one who plays the villain thing. So I used to say that, okay, you cannot do this, you cannot do that kind of thing. So my husband started saying that, okay, when mom goes, we can do quite a lot of things, and we don't really have to give an explanation. So it's more of fun and more of play, which we used. And then I still remember that the day in the airport, when both of them came to drop me, my daughter was laughing. I mean, she was like, I was just hoping that she doesn't really cry and all of that. But actually, that 1 month of preparation to her helped. And she was saying that, and my husband was, of course, very supportive. He said that, tell bye to mom fast so that we can do our own things, kind of thing. So she was like laughing, and she was like saying that she said bye and all of that. And so it was like a very peaceful travel for me. So that kind of helps. And I think that's the one incident which I can recollect. But there is a lot of such incidents where it has become more of humor and I think playfulness, which really helps, because kids are very innocent and they don't really understand the whole logic of why you have to restart your career, maybe, or why you have to go somewhere where you can choose to be with that child. I mean, that they don't understand the logic. So don't even try to explain that to a small child. I mean, if they are quite older, we can always talk. I mean, me and my husband, even when they were quite young, we always used to take vacation. We used to go on a vacation without them, and we needed that break. And we always plan. Even now, we plan that, and they're absolutely okay with that. I mean, it's not that they say that I would come and all of that. So it really worked for me, the way you handle it. So you have to prepare your child, and uh, not really do that abruptly, because they don't understand the logic. So you need to be careful with them, and without showing your emotions, of course. I mean, you cannot cry, and you cannot say that I am going, I don't know how I'm going to manage without you and all of that. You are transferring all your emotions to your child and then leaving, which is not doing a good job. So probably you need to really stay stable, stay in control, don't emote too much, and then you go with a happy note. I mean, restarting a career probably is your child is used to you, and you cannot have that. Yeah, I'm just reading a question here from Nitya. How do we tell a prospective employer politely that it would like to take a part-time or flexible job opportunity and not really get back to full-time because my children are old enough that they do not need my complete attention and I prefer this choice. Nitya, what I would say is if you are absolutely clear about your choice, you can just say that. I mean, you can just say that what's important for you and uh, what works for you. I mean, you can say it. I mean, there is no different. Don't beat around the bush and then try to impress the employer by saying something and doing something else. If you are very very clear, I would, if I were you, I would just tell that employer that this is what I choose and this is what I'm opting for. If the other person or the employer in the interview, if they tell you that I see that your children are old enough, so why don't you come full time? If that is a question you would get, you can say that I think that's what I makes me happy and that's my choice, and that works for everybody. There's quite a lot of things which I probably don't want to discuss, but that is what I would prefer. And if that employer can accommodate your needs, and then just go for it. So I don't think we have to compromise on anything if you're absolutely clear about what you want to do. That's what I would do.
Thank you, Suma. There's one more question. Yep. You are undoubtedly an inspiration to both your daughters. How has your career journey positively influenced your children?
Yeah, I think so far both my daughters still want to work. That's a very positive sign. They don't really want to be a stay-at-home mom. So that's one thing which I consider it as positive. They are not treating me as somebody who is like their friends' home moms are at home and I'm not there, kind of thing. So I think one thing which I really did very very deliberately was the time I spent with them after my office hours. I mean, I think that is one of the things which is absolutely critical. So whoever is planning to restart your career, I think one of the advice I would say is we say that quality time, but we generally don't really think what a quality time is. So evening, as far as possible, the evening after you come back, I think that's a very very precious time. I wouldn't advise you to spend that time in doing daily chores at home. Have a help, delegate some of the things or outsource some of the things which you don't really have to do. But I think being a mom is one thing which you can't outsource. So I was very very careful in deciding that that time of mine. I would, if I were given a choice that would you cook for your family or would you play with your family, I would choose the second one. I mean, for me that was more important for me, and my husband was absolutely okay with that. So we have a cook at home, we have somebody who comes and cleans the house. So we have given a lot of things which absolutely I don't have to do that. So certain things we have outsourced. There are certain roles or certain time which we cannot outsource, and that is where I think it really matters. The children, how they take it. So they have always seen me as a person who is there for them when they need. And I think that's a very that's why they probably have taken it very positively. They understand, and I talk about everything. I mean, I discuss with them, even with my 12-year-old daughter. I have a discussion. I mean, she's quite I feel quite understanding. She knows what I'm telling, and so I ask her, like, I have to go, I have to travel for a week. So are you okay? Or do you need anything from me the next week if I'm traveling? So I have a discussion with them and make sure that they are with me on that decision. I mean, I'm not doing anything in isolation. So I try to involve them. So for me, the why probably it has left a positive impact on them or inspiration for them is probably I try to always tell them that it is doable, it is manageable, both career and home. It is manageable. It's not that you're going to compromise on. If you choose one, the other thing you're going to compromise. It's not that. So, especially when the children are very small, they don't remember. Even though I had a full-time help at home, they don't remember that over a period of time, because when they're probably 6, 7 year old, when you are available for them when they need, what happened when they were probably 1 year old, 2 year old, they don't really remember. So so I think those are some of the time which you spend with them, and what do you do in that time. And there are some critical things where you need to be with them, and if you are there that time alone, it really helps. So so I think those were some of the things which probably has helped me.
Thank you, Suma. You know, Suma, I have taken so much of value from your conversation today. Um, I have been a restarter who's restarted my career after 14 years, and I have a child. And I see the difference that it has brought to my personal life. It has made me a happier person. It has made my child a more independent child. It has only brought positivity to me. On a parting note, could you share with our restarters how, I mean, what is on the other side of, their hesitation to restart their career?
I mean, one of the biggest thing probably I would say is, I always feel that when you become a mom, if you've taken a career break because of being a mother, and I think I always think that way, that when you go on a maternity break or when you go on a break, you are going as an individual contributor, and when you are actually coming back, or when you want to restart your career, I would say that you are coming back as a manager. I mean, because I especially know what all you might have done, you would have managed. So your patience, your giving importance to all the details, and managing things at home. So I think those are all some of the qualities which you are actually bringing in by taking that break. So I would say that all of that are very positive, and we need those skills in the company, because we need somebody who can manage a lot of these things, manage your own work, manage your probably a team, manage your emotions, and time management. I think all of those skills you have learned by taking a break, actually, if you actually think about it. So the confidence is one thing which you have to be, don't think that you are losing out by staying at home. I mean, you are gaining quite a lot of things, your experiences, you have a lot of things which you have learned by being there with your child. So don't assume that you have lost out on a lot of skills. Technical skills is one thing which I keep saying that you can learn like this. I mean, it's not a big thing. I've done that, and it's just that probably the technology has advanced and there are more, and that would come naturally, I think, for you. You should have that confidence that you will pick up the technical stuff. The confidence is probably the competency part, which I think you are better off after you come back from a break. So I would say that be absolutely they need you, because you are coming back with a lot of clarity. If you are joining with all of loss, or you're not, you don't really have to. You guys, and what we all do, what makes us happy. And so be confident, and then face those interviews. And in fact, Shruti, I suggested that to my company that we part helping people restart,
Right.
because what other thing which I am also seeing as a manager myself is, when we hire quite a lot of young women, especially, we see them, the concern probably for most of them is they probably take a break, and they go on their maternity, they come back. Now it's a 6 months policy, probably is not really adding much of help. So they think that, okay, we hire them, the whole interview process itself takes probably 2 or 3 months. We have critical projects, people go on maternity break and they don't come after 6 months. After they come back also, they always have child in their mind. Something, it's all assumption again. I mean, not everything is true, but that's the perception people have. And And I think people who are restarting are better off. Well, actually, when you are thinking about that issue, if you want to have more women on board, I think that's what I told, that we need to hire people who are trying to restart, because they are coming back with a lot more skills, and they're more clear about this whole career.
Suma, thank you so much.
Yep.
I would love to have you back very soon. Thank you.
Sure.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it was really a wonderful experience. It's the first time I'm
Thank you
doing
very
doing
much.
that.
It
So,
was
yeah.
invaluable to
Thank
me,
you.
Suma. Personally, it was invaluable to me. Thank you so much. I've taken so
Yeah,
many,
thank you.
tips
Yeah,
and tools from you. Thank you. See you soon.
thank you.